Welcome back to Man to Man. Today's episode is a hard-hitting one for me to say out loud. But it's real because it's true. And it's about breaking your own word. About saying you'll do something and then almost immediately not doing it. Again and again and again. This one's for every bloke who's ever promised to get up early, hit the gym, stick to a plan, or finally sort this shit out, only to fail at the first hurdle. This isn't really an episode about guilt. It is, however, about honesty. It's about owning the slip and using it as fuel. Excuse me. Now, as the title suggests, I broke my word to myself again. Not living up to your word hurts. Sit with that for a minute. How many times have you promised to others, promised to yourself, that you're going to do something, and then immediately, or if not immediately, at least soon after, you've broke this new habit? Maybe it's going to the gym. Maybe it's showing up for your partner. Maybe it's going on dates with your partner. Maybe it's getting up at a certain time. And then going against those plans once, twice, repeatedly. Now, this is not to lecture in any way. This is an honest exploration, I guess. Because we've all done it. Some seem able to avoid this pretty easily. And some go round this roundabout in circles over and over and over. I can certainly put myself into that latter category. But I know I'm not alone. And yet when you do break your word to yourself, you kick yourself, it almost instills an identity into you, an identity that you've been telling yourself for a long, long time. And it's not that you are that person, it's just that you forgot what it feels like to live by your own word. You forgot what it feels like to trust your own voice. So here's what's actually happened many times in my life. Say, for example, I promised myself I'd get up early and do my non-negotiables. Like I said, that could be anything from getting up, if you're listening to this, getting up, going to the gym, doing some press-ups, being present, coming home and not having your phone in your hand constantly, being present with the kids, or maybe you'd planned or said you was going to plan something and didn't. Maybe you're not showing up at work properly. See, for me, there's been many times, I did it recently, where I had this wall chart, built it up, built a plan, had the momentum there ready to build. But on day one, I didn't get up. Didn't get up as planned. Didn't move as planned. And I didn't follow through as planned. My head was firmly wedged right up my arse. And that was the first day. And I started thinking, see, this is just who you are. You never stick to anything. Instilling in that identity that I've built on myself. See, what hurts the most is realizing that you broke the word to yourself. You promised yourself you was going to do something. You believed it. And then at the first instance, you let yourself down. Here's what I've realised about breaking your own promises. Every time you say you'll do it, and you don't, that brain of yours keeps score. Every time you say you'll do something and don't, chips away at your self-belief. Until you start to think that you're not capable. You stop trusting yourself. And that is dangerous as a man. It's not about the missed cold shower or walk, but it's about the identity that we have. The identity, how we see ourselves. The identity, how we want to build up ourselves too. I want to be a man of action, a man who leads. But my actions didn't line up on that day. Kind of mismatch. And that's what creates the shame. Because you have your identity of this, who this person is. And then you list some things action-wise that you need to do in order to become that person. That identity. And that identity in action needs to be parallel. Now it's not to say that you won't swerve off or everything's going to be linear. Life happens. You're not going to get it right all the time. But as I said, this was day one. So if you're in that boat as well, you're not alone. You're not the only one that does this. Misaligns their actions with the identity. Here's what I'm learning about the moments when I do slip, though. And some of these are without realizing these or without looking at these subjectively and understanding these. Until I do that, the day is ruined. Because in the example I've given you, not getting up at the time that I said, you've woke up to the realization that you've failed. And then many a times I get lost in that loop of calling myself a failure. Kicking myself brutally. But then I start to take note, assess, have a word with myself, have a bit of a fucking wobble. Failing doesn't mean I'm finished, but it does mean I've spotted the gap. And every time I put that red X on that little wall chart, I can either see it as a failure or as a message that this version of me is done. You can look at today as a pre-season a warm-up, a hard reset. As much as you want a perfect streak, it's never going to happen. But then also to fail on the first day is definitely a reality check. You need to be honest with yourself and about the action that you are doing. Now, that honesty may be that you've laid too much out for yourself, which happens quite a lot. The overwhelm kicks in. However, it could just be and like I said, you need a hard reset. You need a good chat to yourself. You need to tell yourself to sort your shit out. And the reason that you have built this negative identity of yourself is because you keep failing to uphold your own word. You don't believe in yourself because you keep failing yourself. You give yourself tasks, and yet those tasks are built on empty promises. Now, the goal isn't to never fail. It's to build that muscle to get back up faster and faster and faster. It's about empowerment, not self-punishment. Because yes, we all fuck up. Yes, it's not ideal. However, when that fuck up occurs, you can either sit there and wallow and pity and waste even more time, or refocus, realign, and get fucking cracking. Action over emotion. And like I said, when you're wallowing, is I believe the word, wallowing in your pity party, after your self-talk, which is something that needs to be done, but the pity party doesn't. The self-talk, having a chat to yourself, the moment of realization, yes, absolutely. But then it's action over emotion, and that pity party is emotion 100%. That moment you go, fucking hell, you're a dickhead, you fucked up, let's make it right. Then do the work. That is action. Action over emotion. So in that moment, that morning, when I didn't get up, I spent some time in bed, giving it the woe is me. Instead of writing the day off, I made a list of things that needed to be done, and I got fucking cracking. I moved, I walked, I had the shower, wrote down my priorities. It wasn't really about productivity, but it was about proving to myself that you still had control. Set a rule for the day. No matter how bad the morning has gone, the day isn't lost until it ends. And I think that's a mantra that I, like many others, should be instilling more. Because we can too easily hook ourselves into the negatives rather than refocusing. Acknowledging the emotion, but then just overriding it with action. Stop trying to be perfect and start being accountable. There's no such thing as perfect. I know we have this ideal, this thing that we aim for. But it's not set or based in reality. It cripples lives, in fact. People don't start those businesses, or they don't pursue them, or relationships fail because they want everything to be perfect. And then ends up focusing on the negatives rather than the positives. What's working? Yes, there'll always be things that need changing. Yes, you will need to pivot here and there. But nothing will ever be perfect. Ever. So fucking ditch it. Ditch this idea of perfect. And start being accountable. To yourself, first and foremost. And then to others around you. Make your word mean something. Look, if you've broken your word to yourself recently, here's what I will say. You're not a failure. You're a man in process. If you go down that failure route and you let your emotions win over action and you stop trying to be accountable and you stop having a word with yourself, then that one missed day becomes a missed week. And then that ruined week becomes a ruined month. And then before you know it, it's a ruined year, and then another, and then another. You keep looking for discipline when what you need and what you're so trying to grasp onto is an identity. You need to believe you're worth showing up for. And you only do that by being accountable with action and not succumbing to that loop of emotion, of crippling self-doubt, of negative self-talk. Understanding that you will fail. Understand that it won't all be hunky-dory. One day, day one, put that X on the spot. The day is done. The tasks are complete. Day two might not go as planned, but you regroup, you refocus, pull it back. Day two, done. Day three, done. Day four, fucking hell. It's a disaster. Write it off. Day five, new day one. Well done. Day two, day three. Bit by bit by bit. You start seeing that you can achieve what you've set out. Building that momentum, starting small. There's nothing wrong with starting small. We've all got to start somewhere, me included. So give yourself one clear action or thought tonight of what you're going to do tomorrow. And then do it. And build up that momentum. And that's about it for this episode. A hard truth and a bit of a reset. I broke my word, but that doesn't mean I'm broken. It does, however, mean that my action and emotional balance is way off. And that is something that I'll only ever fix, as I said, one day at a time, bit by bit. Accumulating those wins. And day by day, that belief gets stronger. And like I said, if you've been all talk recently yourself, let this be your day one of action. One walk, cold shower if you need to be, a difficult conversation maybe, the gym, the press-ups, go for a run, go for a swim. We start again tomorrow, and we keep going, man to man. You got this. Thank you for listening.